There were protests yesterday, and these were really handled very strictly by the police, really hard lined by the police on this. I'm just going to show a clip, and then I'm going to talk to Steve Freeman.
Not my king! Not my king! Butchers apron! Down with the monarchy! Not my king! Not my king! Not my king! Not my king!
Not my king! Not my king! Not my king! Not my king! Not my king!
Pushing people around. There are children here, and you're pushing people back into crowds with children in there.
All I'm doing is making sure that my officers get out safe.
Thank you for coming on, Steve. What did you see when you were down at the protest yesterday?
Well, the funny thing is, as I was reflecting upon it, and I think we're going to have to reflect upon this a bit more than immediately after the events. I didn't see what I've just seen now, and I'll explain why. I think I saw more of the protest just looking at that video, and I was thinking to myself, well, there's three ways to miss the Great Tory Festival, which is of course what it was, a Great Tory Fest. One was to leave the country. Another one was to make sure you didn't have your TV or radio on. And in my case was to try to go to this demonstration in Trafalgar Square, the Republic protest, and see very little or almost absolutely nothing. So, I mean, what happened to me was I went to the Embankment tube station, tried to walk up Northumberland Avenue, and we were blocked by the police there. So it was suggested, well, we go round another way. So we went round another way to go into Trafalgar Square, going down from the Strand. And again, the police had blocked the whole entrance to Trafalgar Square. So I was there with then other people came in the yellow T-shirts and things like that. And there was about 20 or 30 of us. So we began chanting, "Not my king," and "We want democracy," and those kind of things. And then before we knew it, our big squad of police turned up and started surrounding us and saying, "You're not allowed to, breach of the peace." So the next thing we did was we went round the back to try to go into the back of Trafalgar Square by another route, going in at the north side of Trafalgar Square, just below the National Gallery, if you know London at all, the National Gallery. And when we got there, there was a wall, 10-foot high, 15-foot high, green wooden wall right the way across Trafalgar Square. We couldn't see in anything into Trafalgar Square. There's a whole big crowd then going down in front of the National Gallery. So we were sort of swept there. And at the end of that, on the northwest corner by the Canadian Embassy there was about 200 or 300 people there, where we were kind of stuck there in the corner. So there was 200 or 300 of us in that northwest corner. And it was a militant little protest. We were singing for democracy, not our king, and the Celtic fans chant was very popular. You can stick your coronation up your backside. That was being sung. By the way, it was also being sung by the Hibs fans yesterday as well. So we were there singing. A lot of police around us. So I never saw any of the things that we have just seen now. I didn't see it on the telly, and I couldn't see anything. And then eventually there was a sort of protest demonstration and people went away. There seemed to be about 1,000 people or so, but we were marching away really from Trafalgar Square. So I think the police were leading us. I jokingly said to somebody, I think we must be marching us up the North Road somewhere out of London, because we then went and then eventually came to a dead end. So that was kind of all I saw. As I say, you saw more, you saw more of that. But I do know 52 people got arrested, including Graham Smith, who's the leader of Republic, and what we just saw on your video, Crispin was showing what it was, the bit we couldn't see. So basically, the police issued their notices 2 or 3 days ago to Republic. They negotiated that we could all go to Trafalgar Square. Then they did everything to actually prevent us getting there. And then those who did manage to get in the square, they started arresting them. And as you just saw on the video, carrying them away.
Right.
So the demonstration was a lot smaller because people were, presumably, there were other groups of people like the one I was in of about 300 people, probably around the place, you know, not just that group. So the demonstration was never allowed to really assemble properly.
What would you say do you think the police powers have got out of hand? And what did you think about the number of people that were at the protest? Do you think there is a strong anti-monarchy voice, a republic voice out there?
I mean, one of the things I did want to say, and because I think there's a context to this, and I don't think you can understand this event a little bit without seeing the context. But one of the things that I did want to say was that it made me think that socialists should take republicanism a bit more seriously than we have been doing. We tend to be a bit dismissive of it. Well, would anything be different if we didn't have a king? Not understanding both its constitutional and ideological points. And I think, you know, I didn't see any sign that what you might say trade unionists or socialists there in any obvious sense. Although, as I say, I couldn't see much anyway, so there could have been a load of them in the other side of the big wall I was hidden behind. But yeah. Tony Benn, I mean, the real point for me was Tony Benn took it very seriously. He put a bill before Parliament. He wrote a whole book on it. And I'm afraid to say Corbyn did not do that. But I want to make a plug for the Burford festival on May the 20th in Burford in Oxfordshire, because Jeremy Corbyn is going there, and Jeremy Corbyn is going to be speaking about republicanism past and present. So it may well be that we are at a point where all of a sudden we're going to have to reconsider the way that we have taken this. I'm going to go myself, and I'm going to see what Jeremy Corbyn has to say, because in my mind, the Corbyn movement was almost a proto-Republican movement without being really Republican.